Hi guys, I've been really excited about this. Thank you so much to those who have said that they want to take part in this. Try and think of it as less of a competition and more just having fun and learning my techniques. I've never really done a proper tutorial before, but if you do win, then you get some really cool prizes, and that is going to be some of my silk, some of my brushes, my Chinese brushes, and some of my Chinese paints, so that you can have a go on silk just like I do. I'd be basing this on, I guess, whoever does the technique best. So yeah, just have fun with it. So I'm going to start by marking out my design in pencil. This one is a 4H. It's just, it leaves a really fine line. If you don't have a really fine pencil, then mark it out with a normal pencil and then just lightly rub over the design. So I want to do my kind of signature, which is bamboo, peony and leaves. I know you've seen it loads before, but that's my kind of signature. So let's just start. So I'm going to start with a branch. Start like that and come up to here. You don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing. I think if you just draw a branch, some leaves, bamboo and a peony, or not even all if you don't want to do all of them. We're just having fun with it and looking at the technique. And don't mind me if I spend ages rubbing stuff out, because that is my process. Where is my rubber? Okay. So it starts out a bit thicker, gets a bit thinner. It's a bit thinner, I think. Here I'm actually going to do a little bud and then sort of thinner. So with the flower, just be free with it. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. I have drawn these flowers a million times, so I find it easy, but can appreciate that most people probably won't. So do what I did and just rub it out and start again. The little ones up here, and then some. That one bigger. Okay, now we'll move on to some leaves. So start from the branch, and the way I do it is to do one big swoop and then that, So you've got the bottom half of the leaf, and then so that's the general shapes that I do for my Chinoiserie wallpapers. I want to have some coming out of here, so I wonder, let's make that one. So that will come over here, and some leaves. Oh, that one went a bit funny. I'm a little bit nervous, I think that's why. My hand's shaking. Okay, quite like to do one coming out here. Let's do one here. This one. Ugh. And on here. And just another one here. And shall we? I said I was going to do bamboo, but I'm thinking, why don't we just do a butterfly here instead of complicating it? Because I think putting bamboo in the background now is just going to complicate things. So, a little butterfly. So I start with a little body, and I'll do a sideways on one that looks like it's going to land here. A little wing, so swoop and then swoop down, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do the same here to create the second wing. A swoop, and then a little I don't know the technical names for these. There we go. And I'm not going to draw on the antennae because it's easier to paint it on afterwards. Sorry, I have been a little bit unwell. Okay, So let's get on to painting. I'm just checking the video that you can see that. Yeah, okay. So these are all my watercolours. I use Winsor & Newton. I think they're really good. Dala Rowney. And these ones are the Chinese paints. I'm just going to go and get the box to show you those. As you can see, they're so old, some of these. I've had these since probably 15 years ago. These are the Marie's Chinese painting colours. These, all the major silk wallpaper manufacturers, they use these ones in China. I did get these on Amazon and I've checked and I can't seem to find them now, but let's hope. Anyway, so let's start with the branch. So I'm just going to get burnt umber. I'm going to move this out of the way and show you how I mix. For this tutorial, I am not going to be using my Chinese paintbrushes because I don't think it's fair on you guys. That's why I'm using, sorry I didn't say at the start, the paper that I'm using is, this is everyday paper, so it's like a universal paper for watercolour, acrylic, whatever. So it means that I'm not painting on silk. It means that you guys can join in with whatever you have, really. You could probably do it on any kind of artist paper that you have. And the brushes that I'm going to be using are basically what I could find that most of you probably have or could get. So this one is Dala Rowney. Mine, I rarely ever use these kind of brushes and they're really old and crappy, so I'm going to find this a little bit difficult, but we'll try these ones. I think this is a watercolour, maybe it's squirrel or something, squirrel brush. This one is just a Jack's, I think this is a watercolour brush. It was like £2 in the art shop. They're all pretty cheap brushes. But I just thought that maybe you guys would have something similar. So I'm gonna use this Dala Rowney one. Clean water is essential and the colours need to be really, really watery for the base coat. I usually mix a little bit of black in to the branch colour. Let's start here. It just tones it down a bit. So really, really, really watery. So I'm going to get a test piece of paper just to make sure that I'm happy with the colour. That's what I want, and then we'll go over it with shading afterwards. So just go lightly fill in between your lines. I'm gonna go up to about here And just with another brush with just water on it, plain water, just try and soften that edge a little bit. I should really have not, I should have carried on here because now you're going to see a little join, but it's no big deal. We can cover that up with the details afterwards. And just soften that there. Okay, now we'll go in with the details, which is just going to be a stronger version of the same colours. So just adding more paint in. Okay. So with clean water, I'm going to go over a patch here, just water. Sorry, I'm changing brushes. I am changing to this I'm using for a detail. This is just a Winsor & Newton. It is a Cotman 222. It's just a thin brush. It's actually gone really crappy and it's going to be quite hard for me. These ones, they just do, because they're synthetic, and they just, if you leave them in water for even 10 seconds, they just go like that. Anyway, that's why the Chinese brushes that I use, they're natural animal hair, so they're just better. So, details. We'll start with some like that, and then using the water, we're gonna blend them out. So because you've already put the water down, it's not gonna dry too fast. So you have some time to blend it out. Sorry, I have got a cold. Excuse me. Okay, so back in with the water. I'm doing the shading from the left-hand side, so we'll just stick to the left. On that one, I think I had a little bit too much water on my brush, so I always keep a rag next to me to dab off some water. So go again. Oh, that is too much paint on that one. Just keep going back over if you like. I haven't put the water there. dab off some of that excess water. Not too much paint on the brush. See, I'm kind of learning as I go along myself. This is actually the first time I've ever painted Chinoiserie on this paper and with these brushes. So bear with me, but it's fun. Softening. There again, too much paint, but we can make it work. Just go on with the water and kind of spread it out. This is troubleshooting. So for anyone doing this over the weekend, get in touch with me. I'm always on Instagram. So get in touch and I can help you. Okay, so some of that should be dry and I'm just gonna go over, so much less paint on the brush and just a few more definite details. Just to define. I'm finding this really fun. I might have to do a print on this paper, then I can just scan it in on my scanner. That'd be amazing. See, I'm thinking of all the ideas now. I'm really enjoying painting on this. Oh, I might have to wait. Will it keep?
How long?
A few hours.
Okay, I'll keep yours.
Thank you. I'm probably going to have to start a YouTube channel to put this video on there, I think. I've had so many requests for this and usually I'm too busy, but obviously with quarantine, this is the perfect time to just relax and do all of the things that you guys have been asking me to do and that make me really happy. Okay, so now move on to greens. Okay. I think I'm gonna lightly rub over these because I think these pencil lines are gonna show and I'll probably get really frustrated. So you don't want to take it away so much that you can't see it anymore, obviously. Right, so let's get rid of that again and go to the greens. Green. I'll have to be honest with you, most of the time I just make this up as I go along, so I'll go with this olive green gouache. Just a tiny bit. You really don't need much because we're going in so watery with the first layer. And I'm gonna put in some of the brown from before, just to tone it down a little bit. I pretty much put burnt umber into everything, every single colour. It just tones it down a bit and doesn't make it look so kind of overly vibrant and, I don't know, like child colours maybe. What I'm going to do is mix my colour here. Is that the colour I want? Let me just, a bit more. Mix my colour here and then go in next to it with the really watery one, and then I might be able to use that for my shading later. So really watery. I'm just going to test that again. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna want to do a secondary leaf colour, so I'm just gonna paint 50% of the leaves in this green, and then we'll do another green for the rest of them. So, although the paint is really watery, make sure you get a lot of the paint off so that you're not going to go in and just completely saturate and then create a really blobby. Let me just show you, sorry. I'll show you what I mean by that. And that is to just go in like that, and then you're going to get a blob. It's nicer to take off most of the paint, and that's the result when you take off most of the paint. Okay. So I follow the line that I made, and just kind of sweeping upwards towards the point, towards the tip. And then I do the top section, just sort of following that line. It's kind of a blob there, but let's just leave that. This is my first time, okay? Oh God, I'm really unhappy with that. Let me just get another brush, take off most of the water, and just try and soften that out. Oh God. No. It's slightly better. Troubleshooting again. So 50% of the leaves. I'm sure that most of you that are going to be doing this are artists already and know these kind of basic principles, but it's about kind of dragging the paint into its final point, and then pick up So again, I'm following that central line. Following it to the final point, and then pick upwards. So I'm going to try and do a technique that's more similar to how I do it with my Chinese brushes, which is pressing down. Pick up there. So I kind of put the pressure on the brush to fill more of an area so that I don't have brush marks showing, and then pick up. So I'm noticing here, I'm sort of seeing a few brush marks, and with my my Chinese animal hair brushes, I can sort of push the brush down. There's way more brush to start with, and I can kind of push it down. So I think that's the best. If you can get a bigger brush to do these leaves and push down, that is the kind of Chinese painting technique, but with the brushes that we have. A lot of these kind of streaks that I'm getting, I'm not too worried about, although I'm a mad perfectionist, and if I was doing a client order, I would not be having any of this. They're going to be covered when we do the shading and details, so your eye is not going to completely be drawn to this. Let's do this little vein. Not a vein, sorry, a stem. And I'm going to do the top of this, some green, and sort of with water on another brush, kind of blend it down. This one, follow that line, press down. I'm going to have to go back on myself because this is going underneath. Let's take off some more of that paint. This is me trying to achieve the smoothest finish, because the chinoiserie that I paint is all about this kind of precision and perfection, and it's kind of different to traditional watercolour painting, where you want to see that it's watercolour, you want to see the brush strokes, you want to see that kind of those watermarks. Just keep dragging the paint to its final point. Oops. Okay, so we'll let that dry and we're going to go on with a shading. You saw me earlier make the original paint batch, which I then watered down. Just use that one for the shading. So make sure that the leaves are completely bone dry. Use the softest brush you've got. I'm just going to use this one. This, by the way, I didn't say, it says Leonard 100 RO. So clean water. You want to lay the water down first. Only in the area that we're going to be shading first, which is just the bottom half. Don't let it go up there. Then with your darker colour, you want to create a little bottom shadow. Let the paint puddle at the edge, and then you're going to use, quick as you can, your brush with just water to blend it out. This is the hardest part of painting chinoiserie, is creating that blend. We come back to do the top part later because we don't want the colours blending into each other. So again, up here, so the water down, don't let it go past here. Put your darker tone, start at the bottom and let your paint puddle towards the edge to keep a wet edge for as long as possible, because once it's dry and it's really hard to come back from that. This little one, we'll put the water just in this section here. Start at the bottom. Just got to be really, really neat there, and then do a little bit as if it's coming out here and blend. Just keep going until you're happy with the blend all the way to the edge. So you do have to be quite quick about this, and this is the thing that I think stresses people out the most, is this blending, which is why putting the water down first will really help you, because often when I do this I don't actually put the water down first, I just go for it, but it should enable you to keep a wet edge for much longer putting the water down, so you don't get too stressed out, because we don't want this to be stressful. We want it to be really enjoyable. Sorry, I haven't spoken about this one. Okay, sorry, just watch this one and I'll talk you through the next one. So, same principle. Lay the water just in this top section. Don't let it go past this line that we've created. And you want to start sweeping up, 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 and along that line. So you want to create that shape and drag it out. Now this one, there's too much water on this brush, so what I've been doing is I've been using my fingers to just take some of the water off, because it's going to start creating puddles. And so up, 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 and across. Just if anyone does watch this that doesn't know me, this is the first time I've ever filmed a tutorial, so bear with me. I'm not really planning to do very many of these. This is for a bit of a competition that I'm running on Instagram, but normally I have tons of client work, so I'm not really planning on too many of these. But it'd be nice, because apparently there are no videos on YouTube of how to paint chinoiserie, like the kind of silk wallpaper style chinoiserie, so that'd be nice. Up, and across. Let the paint puddle at the edge give you more time. Also, if you're using watercolour paper, it's not something that I've really used much of before, but I know that I think you have to stretch it first to stop it bubbling up, so although I'm not kind of lathering this with water, I can feel it sort of warping slightly. So if that bothers you, then pre-stretch the paper, and I'm sure there are videos on YouTube of stretching watercolour paper so that it doesn't bubble up at all, but that has to be done in advance, and I think it takes overnight, although don't quote me on that. Okay, so they're done, and now I'm going to do a secondary colour. I might do a lighter leaf. Do I want to do a lighter leaf? I want to do, colours I got. I've left the lid off my paints, which is really bad. Some of these are so dried out. Don't know if a more turquoisey one is going to go with this. A more bluey one. Let's see. I'm just going to go back in, not to waste palettes. I also use a pipette often to put the water in, it really helps. Let's see, this is one is quite blue. That is Viridian. It's quite blue. Let's put a little bit brown in, let's tone it down. A bit more brown, a bit more. I'm just gonna take out most of this. By the way, this is China, so it's really good for watercolour. Right, let's make that one really watery. Test it. Bit too watery. Let's try that. Just gonna give this a go. Go all the way to the end and then kind of get rid of that final blob. Just going to make that colour a bit stronger. Let's see. whichever way you apply the paint, you want to just drag it to one final point so that it bubbles at a very end point and you can sort of pick up that bubble. Just going to bring this down. And with my brush with a bit of water on it, kind of soften that in, bring it down a bit further. Okay. Now we're going to mix a stronger colour to go with that. Just get some more of that Viridian. And put a bit more of the burnt umber in. More burnt umber, I think. See how I'm testing just little by little, because if you put way too much in, you've completely ruined the colour. Okay, let's go with that. So we're going to go back to the same technique of water, just here. Don't have too much paint on the brush. Don't think that colour's strong enough. I'm going to make it stronger. Just by adding more paint. Let's try. So next we're going to go on to the veins, which is fun. I'm just going to use this brush. It's the thinnest brush that I have. Usually I use one like this, which is longer. So you want to get the thinnest and longest brush that you have, because if you use one that's really thin and only comes to like there, it won't hold enough paint to be able to create the whole line without running out. So so you want a watery paint, and a dark colour. So I'm just using the one that I just used for the shading previously. So you want to take off quite a bit of that paint. I'm just going to test it on this. So this is what I recommend that you do, is to be testing everything on a separate piece of paper. So for this, it's important that your wrist is, you're kind of moving in this action, so you're not hovering over. So press down and then you're lifting up slightly towards the end. So practice these lines. Press down and lift up. So that's thicker than that. So press down slightly, lift up. And then we're going to be pressing down and swooping around. Okay. So press down from here to here, bring it up at the end. Following the line as precisely as you possibly can. And then that's move number one. Move number two is from about here, press down and up. And see how it's gone off there? That doesn't matter. I really like things like that. Makes it look hand painted. And then from the top, just outside of here, you want to press down and go upwards, follow it round. And then another one, follow it round, another one, follow it round. So press down, follow it round, and here. Press down and up, down, up, and up. So there's 3 on the bottom, and then upwards on the top. So down, and see how my wrist, it just goes, you're holding, your arm stays completely still, your hand moves. I'm guessing the one is going to come from there, here. Down and lift up, press down and lift up. You don't want too much paint on the brush. up, lift up. So you want to be practicing these movements. In the Chinese painting studios, they make wallpaper. The artists have to paint just leaves to start with, and they sit there for days and weeks just painting leaves over and over and over and over again. And the motions just become second nature. If you're not getting this, I've taught a few people in the past, just sort of one-on-one, and it really is quite tough. I guess I make it look easy because I've been doing it for so many years, but there are so many things that sort of go wrong, and it's usually to do with too much water on the brush and too much pressure on the brush. So those are the two key things. So when you're doing this at home, you can just turn the paper. I'm sort of going backwards on myself just to keep this in a nice position with you guys. But turn the paper around and it's much easier if you're in a certain position. Okay, so that's the veins done. I'm just going to do a couple of little details on here, just a bit of shading, so deeper at the top. Just blend that out. A little bit of shading on the edge of these stems. So just a little thin line. So let's move on to the flower, which is obviously going to be pink. So let's just go with this one, Opera Rose. Pink is my favourite colour, and everything I do is pink. Bit of burnt umber. Just tones it down. Quite like that, so just a bit of water. This is for the base coat. Let's test this. It's quite bright. A bit more umber. It's going very red. Let's put a bit of yellow. Actually, let's go for raw umber, which is a kind of beige. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay. So we're going to lay down the base coat first. So again, very watery paint. So I think it's best to follow each petal, because otherwise if you try and paint the whole thing, you're going to end up with splodges. So let's start. Follow your outline. That's one petal done, and then drag it into another petal so you don't get too many splodges, but follow the outline of your petal. Bring it into this one. Following this into here. And here. I now don't want to go back into that one because that one is already drying, so I'm just going to stick here, leave that one alone. Same here. Just trying to get the smoothest finish possible. The camera's just fallen, which is a bit annoying. So we're going to go on to a darker shade for shading of the flower. Some of the opera rose, some burnt umber. That's too much. Why did I do that? This one, not as watery as the last. It's going to need to be a bit stronger. Let's try Permanent Rose, which is one of my favourite colours. Let's go with that. Right, so it's the same principle. We're going to blend, and for this you kind of do need to see your pencil lines to know where you're going. So clean water. Let's start on each petal. We're going to tackle individually. So we've got a space here, and don't forget your little lip on your flower. So we want to put the water everywhere at the bottom base of the petal except for the lip. And then you're going to bring that up to kind of this shape, and then not too much water on your brush. You're going to blend it out. It's the same principle for each individual petal. And create a sort of arch shape. And just sort of blending it out. Got to be really precise with how you lay this colour down. So one thing I have to say is that this is nowhere near as smooth as I can get the blend on the silk. It still looks nice, but it's not got that kind of perfect precision as with the silk. So whoever wins this, I think if you enjoy this, you're going to have real fun working on the silk. It's just so much easier to move the paint around. Just going from the base upwards and blending. These little lips, just a little flick and blend. You don't really have to lay the water down first with these because it's just a little flick, so it won't dry too quickly. Oh God, I've got Oh no, I've gone too far there, trying to fix it, and it's just made a little. Try and ignore that, we'll try and fix that later. So you're just going from the base of every petal and creating an arch shape. Blend. Okay. Kind of annoyed about that one. Let's see, go over it again. Doing it again, I better just leave it. Looks a little bit darker, so I'm just gonna make this one a bit darker as well. Just to balance it out a bit. Might actually make a few of them a bit darker. One more layer. Okay. Now it's going to be time for a little outline. I'm just going to hair dry this. Back to this brush and just use the same colour that you used for the shading. Just gonna make sure that there's not too much paint on the brush. Just go around each petal. So it's about a really thin brush, not too much paint on, that's imperative, and a light touch, a light pressure. This brush isn't too bad actually. I'd say that this is pretty on par with my Chinese brushes that I use. I'd probably be quite happy to use these for a job. The only issue is that they just don't seem to last. If you leave them in water for even a few minutes, they curl up. There we go. I just want to do a few tiny little details. Just some yellow and white. Tiny amount. Yellow and some white. Any yellow will do. I'm just taking this brush. Bit more. tiny bit of another colour to just muddy it up slightly so it's not so intense yellow. And so it's just a few flicks. Flick. Just use the shape of your brush. Right, onto the butterfly. So I think I'm gonna do, I think I'll do it a sort of peachy, just using the colours that I've already got. Maybe a bit more yellow. It can be any colour you like, really. Not too much paint on there. So just do the base coat. And I'm going to want to mix up a deeper, it's a bit of burnt umber. In with the original colour. So start at the top and bring that colour round from the top and down to about there and blend. Swap brushes for the blending. Same here. Start at the top. And at the edge here, come round just to about there and soften. That one's not great. If I keep going over it, I'm going to ruin it. So leave that and do the little body and then soften. What colour am I going to do the details? Let's go with white, just some white. I'll go with this brush. Make sure it's dry. These ones are a little bit tricky. So start from here and we're going to go kind of like a spider web. Then I'm going to flick out. Flick. Make sure that there's not too much paint on the brush. Another one there. And then same here, sort of spider web. Flick. Flick. Let's do some little details here. Press and flick. 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 Same here. Just use this brush to create some really fine details here. Just feathering it out slightly as I get to the top. Just tiny little flecks. Not too much paint on the brush. Do the same here. Okay. And then I'd like to do a bit of pink in these flecks here just to tie this in. Now I'm going to go back to this colour here, the brown that I made. Not too much paint on the brush. Now, 2 little dots here. And you've got to be really free with this antennae. Start thin, thick at the end. Start thin, thick at the end. And some little details here. Little flecks. Maybe outline the body. And the little legs. Light touch, really light touch. I'd like to put a deeper brown outline just here. You can go as far as you want with the details, really. I think that's it. So that took, I think, about 2 hours. I've done it all in one go. I expect it would take other people longer, and if you just want to do a really small flower or a bud with just a few leaves, that's fine. I think that I'd be judging the competition based on the technique, the skill, and overall how pretty it looks. I'm going to sign this and I'll offer this as part of the prize to whoever wins. It's an original painting, obviously. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what you guys do. I don't think there'll be too many participants, but anyone who does, even if it's just a couple of you, it would be really, really nice to get us through these times of quarantine. Thank you so much for watching.